Why are so many tourists ignoring Myanmar's dark side? Myanmar, the temples of Bagan to the tranquil waters of Inal Lake, it offers the kind of untouched beauty that seems straight out of a travel magazine. Yet, behind this picturesque exterior lies a complex and often disturbing reality, one that many tourists seem to either overlook or deliberately ignore. So, why is this happening? Why are so many visitors willing to post selfies in front of ancient stupas without acknowledging the suffering just out of frame? To understand this, we need to start with the country's recent history. For decades, Myanmar was isolated under a brutal military dictatorship that controlled nearly every aspect of life. Journalists were banned, dissent was crushed, and human rights abuses were rampant. But in 2011, things began to shift. The government started opening up. Political prisoners were released, the press gained a little more freedom, and the country began its transition toward democracy. Aung San Suu Kyi, the Nobel laureate who had spent years under house arrest, became the face of this democratic movement. The global narrative changed almost overnight. Myanmar transformed in the eyes of the world from a reclusive pariah state to a hidden gem ready to be discovered. Tour companies rushed in. Backpackers added it to their Southeast Asia circuit. Instagram was suddenly filled with hot air balloon shots over Bagan. It seemed like Myanmar had arrived on the tourism map for good. But then came 2017. That year, the Myanmar military launched a brutal crackdown against the Rohingya, a Muslim minority group in the country's Rakhine state. Entire villages were burned, thousands were killed, and more than 700,000 people fled to neighboring Bangladesh. The UN described it as a textbook example of ethnic cleansing. And yet, Myanmar's government, including Aung San Suu Kyi, largely denied the atrocities or deflected blame. This dark chapter raised serious ethical questions about tourism in Myanmar. Should people still visit a country where such grave human rights abuses were taking place? Were tourists indirectly supporting the military regime by spending money there? Travelers wrestled with these questions at least briefly. But over time, the headlines faded. And for many tourists, the pull of pristine beaches and ancient temples proved stronger than the uncomfortable reality. Part of the issue lies in how tourism is structured. When visitors land in Yangon or Mandalay, they're ushered into a bubble. Tour guides focus on culture, history, and food. Most itineraries avoid the conflict zones. Even casual conversations with locals rarely broach the subject, especially since discussing politics can still be risky. The result is a curated version of Myanmar, one that feels authentic on the surface, but carefully avoids any mention of the ongoing military control or the Rohingya crisis. There's also a powerful narrative of helping the local people that many travelers latch onto. The idea is that by visiting, tourists are supporting small businesses, encouraging openness, and aiding the economy during hard times. There's some truth to this. Many locals do benefit from tourism. But this narrative can also become a convenient excuse to disengage from the country's darker realities. It shifts focus away from systemic issues and allows visitors to feel good about their trip even if their dollars are flowing into government-approved hotels and military-owned enterprises. Another factor is the sheer complexity of the situation. Myanmar's politics are deeply tangled. There are multiple armed ethnic groups, decades of civil war, and a military that continues to hold enormous power even when civilians appear to be in charge. For the average traveler planning a 2-week vacation, digging into all of this can feel overwhelming. It's far easier to skim a few articles and then focus on the safe parts of the story. But willful ignorance has consequences. In 2021, Myanmar's military seized power again in a coup, overthrowing the civilian government and sparking widespread protests. The country has since descended into chaos, with thousands of people killed and many more imprisoned. The military continues to use violence to suppress dissent, and the dream of democracy has once again been shattered. Despite all this, tourism hasn't completely stopped. While the numbers dropped significantly after the coup, a portion of travelers still find ways to visit. Some argue they're making a statement by not letting politics ruin their trip. Others simply avoid reading the news. The truth is, every traveler makes a choice not just about where to go, but about what to acknowledge. Tourism is not a neutral act. It has economic, cultural, and political impact. And in places like Myanmar, choosing to look away from injustice doesn't make it disappear, it just makes it easier for those in power to continue with impunity. This doesn't mean that people should never visit Myanmar. But it does mean they should do so with eyes wide open. It means asking hard questions, seeking out ethical travel options, and listening to the voices of those who are suffering. It means understanding that beautiful landscapes can coexist with terrible injustices and that the role of a responsible traveler goes beyond snapping photos. Myanmar is more than its temples and sunsets. It's a country in crisis, caught between hope and horror, past and future. And until more tourists are willing to face that reality, they'll remain part of the problem no matter how stunning their vacation photos might be.